friends, welcome back to my YouTube channel. My name is Aireonna, joined by Marco from Clutch Team Sports today. Absolutely beautiful day out here. At least right now I'm in Sonoma County and it is, sunny and 75, and I've never had more serotonin. I feel like just been an incredible last 2 days with the sunshine.
I mean, you would go from New York where it's cold and snow to a nice, beautiful weather day. It's
It's
much better. That's
so
why East Coast sucks.
I'm supposed to go back to I think I technically live in New York now, but um my end goal has been to have my friend move back with me, her and her boyfriend. And yeah, it's been so nice. Like a couple days ago, she sent me a picture and it was like sunny out there, I like looked at the weather and it was still very cold. I'm like, yeah, but it's sunny and warm out here. So,
Yeah, see,
how's
so
it where do you live? You're in the East
I'm
Bay?
in the central. No, I'm in the Central Valley, so right here in like the middle of California, pretty much 69 degrees, sunny. But I work from inside. I work from home, so I have not gone outside today, which I normally do. I normally go take like a little stroll outside, but
That's
I
what
have
I just
not
did
today.
too when I got off work. I tried to get off a little bit earlier so I could run out. I feel
Nice.
like that's always I have you ever heard like do you know what is his name? Dr. Haberman or whatever? He's
Oh
the
yeah,
guy, he's like
I know what you're talking about.
so he always talks about like getting sunshine first thing in the morning. But it hasn't even been sunny in the morning. So I now that it is, I want to try to wake up a little bit earlier and like cuz I think it's only like 15 minutes or something, but it's supposed to make a big deal. In your, like, energy and mood and sleep production and all that.
Which makes
If you get
sense.
it yeah. I feel like it, especially, like, back in the day, if you think about it, people were, like, going outside to work. But we have some breaking news, Marco. Never a freaking dull moment with the 49ers. I feel like there's been something to talk about every single day this offseason. Um, I was gonna say I didn't find it to be the best news, but you and I sent a couple DMs back and forth, and maybe you have a different perspective and you can walk me off the ledge a little bit. But Colton McKivitz, 49ers starting right guard, got extended 7 million 1 year. He's locked in until 2025. Why the heck did the 49ers make this move? Um, what does this mean for are they still going to be drafting in right guard? Offensive line? What are you thinking? Why did they do this? Are they just trying to bring his salary cap down? I mean, he was only taking about like 3 million, I think it was. So I don't
Mhm.
think they saved that much by extending him. Do the 49ers just think way more highly of him than we do? What's going on?
So for me, I have two perspectives on it, right? Like, I don't think Colton McKivitz is a starting level right tackle, especially for a Super Bowl winning team. I think he's exactly what the Niners wanted, right? Like he's someone you could play and you could win games with at right tackle, but essentially you're not going to win the Super Bowl with him at right tackle. It's just my opinion. I don't think he's a terrible tackle like some do. I don't think he's as great as some people are saying,
But
and
if their
and
goal is to win a Super Bowl, then what the hell are they doing?
what I think they're doing actually is I think you're trying to it's kind of a safety net, right? So it does drop his contract, his cap hit this year by 1.6 million. So that does save you a little bit of money. I mean, I don't really know what that's going to really get you, but when you look at Colton McKivitz $7 million contract for next year, so we got to remember it's next year, right? The cap number is going to go increase drastically next year. We're also going to most likely have um, other situations where the Niners could upgrade at right tackle.
I
But
feel
when you
like
look,
that's too much to pay a backup, right? Like, what are they? And I think
mm,
everyone was expecting that they were gonna try to replace his position this year in the draft. This kind of
I
makes
don't
it
think
feel
it's
like
too
they're not
much.
gonna do that.
I don't think it's too much because when I looked at the numbers, right? So offensive tackles in general get paid around the same now. Right tackle it used to be left tackles get paid a lot more than right tackles, but since right tackles made the case for themselves, saying, "Hey, you know what? We're actually blocking the better pass rusher on this side. Like there's pass rushers on both sides nowadays. We need to get paid the same." So when you look at it, they get paid the same. So I'm gonna throw some numbers out there and explain what I was looking at. So 7 million takes place next season, not this year, right? As of this year, so if we're going off of 2024 salaries before free agency, it would be the 34th highest paid offensive tackle this season. Next season, it'd be the 31st, but that's without a lot of players who are young, supposed to be getting
Okay.
contract extensions. So we're looking at him probably being around with that 7 million range, probably sitting around 40th by the time a lot of contracts are done, free agency's done, and stuff like that. So when you look at that, it's not starter level money. Like I know a lot of people
Okay.
see 7 million, it's like, oh crap, that's
Yeah.
a whole lot of money for the 49ers who don't have much cap space. Their cap number increases next year. So for them, I'm not really looking at that 7 million figure. I'm looking at the guaranteed money. How much money is guaranteed? That's 45% of his or 65% of the deal, which is around 4.5 million. And if the Niners think, you know what, he's a after next year, they, for example, it doesn't tie their hands to go into the draft and not take an offensive tackle. It isn't right away when you look at it. Like people, I know a lot of people on Twitter, social media were like, you know what? Oh my God, he's our starting right tackle. Holy cow, Colton McKivitz is the future at right tackle. If the Niners truly thought of Colton McKivitz as the future at right tackle, they would have gave him a longer deal, right? Because what happens is now Colton McKivitz is going to be on a 1 year, essentially a 2 year deal, where after this year, he's on a 1 year deal, right? If he plays extremely well this year, let's say he plays lights out, he's not playing under
What
that
does that
7
even
million.
mean for him?
Let's say he plays at a high level where he's a potential pro bowler, right?
I think my problem is I think myself and a lot of fans were expecting that Colton McKivitz wouldn't be starting this year.
I agree with you. I 100% agree with you. I don't want Colton McKivitz to start, but I do think the center and the right guard situation is a lot more important right now than the right tackle. The Niners weren't losing games because of Colton McKivitz. They were losing games because John Feliciano, Burford, and Jake Brendel couldn't block. The issue is the right side. You can't run on that right side of the ball. Like you cannot run the ball to the right side. That's an issue. Is it the guard? Is it the tackle? Kyle needs to figure that out. So for me, I'm looking at it, I'm like, you know what? It's not that bad of a number because let's say, for example, the Niners do roll with Colton McKivitz this year. He starts and he plays just as good as he did this year. He played well. He didn't play terrible. Didn't play great. He played average, right? It's worth more than $7 million if he could up it up and have another good year like that. Like look what the free agent market hits. Now you're essentially getting yourself a safety blanket. So when you go into the draft, you don't have to reach for a tackle. You don't have to reach for a guard because Cole McKivitz could slide inside and play guard too.
See, I was anticipating that they would probably use their first and second to trade up in the draft. Do you think that's something that they'll still be willing to do? Or do you think because they have a guy like him signed, maybe they'll be more comfortable staying at 31?
If they find someone that's they think is a day one starter, they'll do it. Like right. So I know a lot of people like I had a lot of DMs come in today from a lot of people. They're like, "What the heck? We thought you said Kingsley Mataya is a first round starter day one." I think that like just because what I think doesn't mean I think like the Niners, right? Like so we got to remember like the Niners think differently. Last year they told us they believed in Colton McKivitz. I mean, they got to the Super Bowl with Colton McKivitz as their starting right tackle. So I mean, I guess it kind of worked if you think about it. Like I don't like it though. I
They
don't.
didn't win the Super Bowl.
But they got there. It wasn't his fault that they lost.
I don't think he was like a pro.
The reason they lost was because of the right guard and the center situation, in my opinion. And if you look at
As
it
we
more
know,
so,
thanks
Kyle,
to John
in,
Feliciano.
in more so, I would say they lost because of Kyle Shanahan, not because of Colton McKivitz. So it's like
Okay.
you can't really like when I'm
You're
looking at him,
right. You're
like
right.
I understand the signing. I understand it, right? I don't agree with it though, right? Because
I agree with it if what you're saying, like, I think you are helping me walk down the ledge. Like, if they're okay with making him a backup, like, I don't want them to not try to replace him now that they've signed him. And I don't understand why you would sign someone that you're not trying to replace. I'm not, but I like what you're saying about like if there is a right guard or center position that is better at that at whatever pick they're at. You're right, you don't want them to reach for someone because they feel like they need a right tackle. So I can understand that, but if they I don't know, I just don't want them to lose motivation to try to like get better in that spot, you know?
yeah, absolutely. I don't
It's
think they
like
lost
dating. If you just
motivation.
like settle for someone who like is like okay, you're like, all right, like I can be comfortable. And maybe you don't like want to continue looking for someone else because you're like settling. But if you're single, then you can like you can be like, all right, well, I have a standard, you know?
I get what you're saying. Like in the sense, okay, I get what you're saying. Like, but the thing is though, is like, for example, someone who's dating. So my now wife, she had a
Yeah.
saying where don't let your boyfriend get in the way of finding your husband, right?
I've heard that.
Like,
I've heard
so
that.
she said that one time, but it was like she was jokingly, obviously with my aunts and stuff. But the Niners, this is the Niners' boyfriend, right? Like this is their girlfriend, whatever we want to call him, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I've seen that. I've seen
They're
that.
not gonna let Colton McKivitz get in the way of finding their future left or right tackle, potential left tackle for 10 plus years. Like they're not gonna do that. Like I don't see that happening. If Kyle sees a tackle in the first round that he wants to trade up for or at 31, he's gonna get him. Like I don't see Colton McKivitz stopping Kyle from doing something. You know what I mean? Then to look at it, like I understand the situation because let's say Kyle Shanahan and John Lynch and the scouting department are not high on this draft class at offensive tackle, even though everyone else is. They believe this draft class is overhyped, right? Do we
Okay.
want them to reach for an offensive tackle and say, hey, you know what? We did what the fans want, but then
Yeah.
when they completely miss, you know what the fan base is going to say? You guys suck at
Yeah,
drafting,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
right? So, like, I get them doing this and say, you know what? This gives us
I
the
do kind of think
opportunity.
they suck at drafting. We're
I
gonna
do.
talk
I
about like
agree. I
comp picks.
agree.
We're gonna
But
talk about comp picks in a second. And I was just listening to Spreadsheet talk about how they've had 11 comp picks in the last 2 years. So something like an entire draft's worth of just comp picks. And I'm like, are literally all of those comp picks on the Eagles practice squad right now? I think so. Like, are any of them on the team?
when
No.
you look at the comp picks, like they don't hit on any of them, so it doesn't really matter. Like, what picks are we
Exactly.
hitting in the last couple of years? What picks have we truly hit on? Brock Purdy, cool. That's a great pick, but that wasn't because of Kyle and John. You got lucky with the last pick in the draft. Like I'm looking at the draft picks and like, hey, we really suck at drafting the last couple of years, and that's why we're having depth issues and we need to start signing people. But for me, I think the reason why they signed him was because the contract number isn't that big. You could go now. You get to go into free agency. You get to go into the draft, and you get to draft best player available. But it doesn't stop you from
Which is
taking a
important,
tackle.
like stop from reaching. I just like if they do have the opportunity, like if there is a guy on their board and they would have to trade their number 1 and number 2 pick to go up and get him, I don't want them to be like, "Oh, we don't need to," like I don't want them to try to save draft picks and think like, "Oh, we have McKivitz." You know what I mean? Like I want them to still be aggressive in the draft and to think of McKivitz as like a fallback plan for if that guy does not work out year 1, you
No,
know?
yeah, the way I look at it is, and like the way I think the Niners are looking at it at the same time is, Colton McKivitz is a safety blanket. He's someone that you're comfortable with. You're comfortable starting him, but you're not comfortable having him be your franchise right tackle. Does that make sense? Like, because like if
Yeah.
he was their franchise guy, it would be so smart right now. So he just got 7 million. He got what? That's 65% of it, 4 million guaranteed. They could have signed him to like a 4 year, $28 million contract with 20 guaranteed. And if they thought he was the
Yeah,
real
yeah,
deal,
yeah.
right, based off their numbers, maybe it would have been a lot less, 24 million or whatever.
I hear what you're
But
saying
then
though, like,
if he
trying to build up.
performs, like if they thought he was that guy, right, like he's the franchise guy, you extend him now because he hasn't played much. People don't really know how good he is yet. But if you think he is, you
Yeah,
extend him early, and then in like 2 years, when he's playing on a contract that's worth $7 million in 2 years, and because you thought he was the guy this year and you extended him for 4 years, you look genius. They don't think he's that guy, and that's why they didn't sign him to a 4 year deal. They signed him to a 1 year deal, and that's where it's going to keep going. I don't see the Niners looking at him as the franchise guy, and that's why I'm not too worried about the contract. 'Cause at the end of the day, if the Niners want to move on, they could trade him, they could cut him. They're only eating 4.5 million. If you're trading a tackle, a backup tackle for 3.5 million, and you could get a pick back, I'm fine with it. Like it's truly not that detrimental to the 49ers, and I know a lot of people are looking at it as holy cow, we are gonna roll with Colton McKivitz. Now, don't get me wrong,
I
this
also like
means
what you said, he's kind of swing tackle-y, right? So he can
yeah,
play on multiple spots. So it's good to have a guy like that on your roster to fill in if someone gets hurt if they do replace him. So maybe like they just feel like even if they don't feel like he's the solidified starter for the next 2 years, maybe they just feel like he's good enough to be on, worth 3 million or whatever next year.
Yeah, and when you look at it, though, like let's say, so right now what the Niners just did is it doesn't stop them from drafting a tackle in round one. It doesn't stop them from trading for a tackle. It doesn't stop them to do anything. It really doesn't, because they can move them in at guard. For example, if Feliciano gets a better offer somewhere else, and he's like, you know what, even though I want to be back with the Niners, I'm heading out. They can move Colton McKivitz in at right guard if they draft a tackle and they think that's the future. Like, he has position versatility, so you're able to move him around if needed. If Trent goes down, can he play? Can he take that spot for a couple of games? Guard, center, he's able to play all those positions. So
And
I
Trent
get
is getting older and misses a couple games every year no matter what nowadays.
absolutely, and that's what's kind of
Yeah.
scary. Is like
Not to
it's
try to
not.
predict injury, I just mean, like, he normally misses a couple.
And what it also could tell you too, though, Ashley, is, for example, if the Niners signing Colton McKivitz to a $7 million deal. Let's say Trent Williams retires after this coming season, right? What do you do at left tackle? Do you have that rookie bounce to the left side, and then what do you do at right
Oh,
side?
that's scary. That's
Right?
scary.
Like, so now
Scary, scary,
you don't know, now your O-line is screwed because you don't have someone who could play left tackle. You don't have someone who can play, like, so for me, I think this signing kind of tells us, you know what, hey, if Trent does retire, we at least have Colton, who we could
We're
try
just,
at
like,
left tackle or
fortifying
right
themselves.
tackle. Yeah, like, you're
Mm.
kinda just, it's a safety net, and I think that's how I saw this deal. I saw it as a swing tackle potential starter because they're comfortable and they trust him. But I didn't see it as that's the franchise right tackle. He's guaranteed to start week 1.
Okay, I have 2 questions off of this Colton topic really quickly. I wanna go to this comment. Al Bundy says, "All of my mock drafts didn't have the 49ers drafting a right tackle in the first. I had the 49ers picking Christian Mahogany in the second
Okay.
with their first O-line picked. Do you, have any, like, just from because I know you're into the draft, did you anticipate them drafting O-line, whether or not that was, tackle, guard, center? Did you have them picking, the O-line with that first draft pick that they have,
I
or
I do, and I still have them picking O-line with that first draft pick. So
okay.
it all just depends on who's there. Like, best player available, in my opinion, best player available is going to be one of the tackles. I don't see 10, 11 tackles going in that first round. I see Kingsley or potentially one of the guys being there at 31. So if Kingsley's there, Jordan Morgan's there. Jordan Morgan, I see him more as a guard, potentially give him the opportunity to play tackle. But if Kingsley's there, 100% I'm taking Kingsley at that pick 31. But is he there? I think he's worth the 31st overall pick. And I just spoke to his assistant offensive line coach at BYU yesterday on the show. And so
That's
for me, I'm
awesome.
definitely going offensive tackle right there if it's Kingsley. If not, I'm going best player available, because after that, if there's no tackle there, it's a big drop off until maybe the end of the second round is when I would try to take a tackle.
Okay, do you have any thoughts on this Christian guy that, Bundy is talking about?
Christian Mahogany, out of I believe he's out of BC Boston College. Very good right guard. When I watch him, he's very physical. He's athletic. Had a great combine. He would definitely be a plug and play at right guard for us immediately. He definitely would step in and start, and he would hold his own. And then what I want to see the Niners do is, if you do get a guard, let Spencer Burford try to compete at right tackle. Like, that's what he was. That's what he was, a tackle in college. Like, I always said he would be a very good tackle,
I don't
but they
know.
put him at guard. Like, he's not a guard.
Okay.
Like, it's hard for players to go from
Isn't
outside to
isn't
inside.
tackle supposed to be more difficult than guard, or am I wrong about that assumption?
It depends. I've talked to a tackle and I asked him that question. He said, honestly, it depends for every player. He was like, it's harder for me to move inside. He goes, because I don't have the knee bend like that, and it's easier for me to play tackle. And then I was like, what do you think, guard to tackle? Like, is it easier to go from guard to tackle? He goes, if you're a guard, you're usually not going outside. He goes, we're good in it. Like, us tackles can move inside because we're athletic enough. He goes, but it's hard for some players to do it.
Okay. Okay. Interesting. Well, we'll see what they're gonna do. Do you have any thoughts really quickly on Troy Fontano? Tanu?
Oh yeah, he's going. I think he's going top 15, and I have him ranked on my 4th offensive tackle in this
Okay,
draft class.
can the 49ers, if they traded their first round pick and their second round pick, could they not get like how far up could they get if they wanted to go after a guy?
I don't know how far up they could get. I'd have to look at the trade chart, like in terms of value, trade value chart that a lot of teams use. But I think they could get up into the mid teens. Um, but you're gonna
It
have to
seemed
give up
like
at least your
from
first and second.
But I feel like that could be worth it if if it's one of those, like, really highly thought of offensive linemen. It seemed like John Lynch also kind of hinted that they were gonna be aggressive in the draft and that they were gonna go offensive line during his, press conference that he had. Don't Didn't you kind of get that
I
takeaway when he
took
was
the
asked
same
that?
thing. I
Yeah.
thought he kind of said like, yeah, like we want to be aggressive. We know how good this draft class
Yeah.
is, and we know how our offense
And
is. And
someone specifically
I was
asked
like,
him about the offensive
yeah.
line, and he was like, "Haha, like, we'll have to see about that," but, like, he said it in a way that sounded like, "You'll see, like, we're gonna do that."
But also too, it is John Lynch. He's good with the media, so kind of might
Okay.
maybe tricked us, huh?
Yeah, apparently, he's like, "Haha, you'll see, we're signing Colton McKivitz, baby." Um Okay, I thought I was gonna say then Matt Miyoko, he kind of quote tweeted the announcement about Colton McKivitz getting re-signed, and he said to look out for other veterans on the 49ers that were gonna be
Yeah, that
getting
was
extended, kind of hint, hint. Now, I was thinking you could restructure, or extend Charvarius Ward and even and I know fans might not be pro this, but if we're being honest about Kyle Shanahan and his love of certain players, I think they might be open to extending both Ward and Debo Samuel, and that would free up a ton of cap room for them. I know that I think the
you trying to
idea
give
is
me a
like
heart
don't do
attack.
that with Debo so you can move off of him, but is Kyle ever going to want to move off of Debo anyways? Debo and him are best friends.
You're really trying to give me a heart attack today. If they extend Debo at the age of 29, Debo like when you look at Debo,
I'm not
great
saying they
athlete,
should. I'm just
great athlete, right? But like he's 28. He just turned 28 in January. His body keeps breaking down. Great player, right? But I'm not doing it. I'm not gonna because you're gonna extend him. Now you're gonna have at the age of 30, his body's gonna break down faster. That is not. I'm not doing that. I could see Mooney. I also could see the Niners potentially extending or restructuring Fred Warner, and that frees up like 20 million roughly.
okay. Fred
Another
Warner, I can see.
extension to Brandon Ayuk is 30 million. So you could create 30 million real fast on the snap of a finger. You just got to make sure
Marco, they're gonna trade Ayuk and they're gonna extend Debo. I need you to be mentally prepared for when that happens, okay? They do.
if Ashley, if that happens, I will no longer record a podcast ever again in my lifetime. I truly will. Like you could bookmark this, stamp 20 at 23-minute mark on Friday, March 8th. I will not record a podcast ever again if they trade Debo Samuel and extend Debo. But it has to be both. Because if they
Yeah,
trade
yeah, yeah.
Debo and they don't extend or they
Brandon?
trade Brandon Ayuk and they don't extend him, then I'll record. But I don't see that happening at all.
I don't either. I'm just messing with you. Okay, and then the other big kind of dun 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 breaking news, and I think we're potentially waiting for maybe the owners' meetings for them to give the official announcements from the team and give everyone their titles. But as of right now, we just know that not Mike, Mick Lombardi has been signed to the 49ers
We
coaching
won a
staff.
Lombardi.
I know, finally, right? Uh He's been brought in to the Shanahan coaching staff, was a pass game coordinator for the Raiders, so I don't know what exactly he'll be doing here, but do you have any immediate takeaways from the addition of him? Is it just a guy in the room? I don't the
I
Raiders weren't killing anyone on offense, so I'm not exactly sure.
So I know a lot of people were like, "Oh, it's Mitch Lombardi or Mick Lombardi. Super excited to get him. He's not a yes man. He's not a yes man because look at who his dad is." Like I'm just like, it's Kyle's offense. One, like you're coming in. I get Kyle's offense, but at the end of the day, know your role. Like you're not gonna come in. You're not gonna tell Kyle how to run his offense. You're not gonna. You might maybe checks and balances. Hey Kyle, you need to go to more of this. This is more working for you. but I don't see him being a vital role to Kyle's offense. He could become possibly like the roles I see that are available: passing game coordinator, run game coordinator, um, offensive specialist, something like along those lines. We already have a quarterback coach. We have good receiver coaches. We have a good running back coach, good tight end coach. So I don't see where he fits unless Kyle plans on making him that um, passing game coordinator role or the run game coordinator role. But like when you watch what he's done with the Raiders when he was with New England, the offenses that he's
Raiders
been
didn't
in
have a good
aren't
run
good.
game. I mean, I know they had Josh Jacobs for a minute, but they didn't have anything like clever scheme wise.
No, and that's why I was like, I see a lot of people like excited that he's not a yes man. Well, he's not a yes man because look who his dad is. His dad was a GM in the NFL. His dad is a very well known guy. At any point, Mick Lombardi has a job anywhere in the NFL. Like it does not matter no matter how good of a coach he is, he's gonna have a job in the NFL because of who his dad is. Like it's, I know a lot of people don't want to hear that, but that's truly the way it's gonna work. His dad is a very well known and respected person in this industry, and at the end of the day, he's gonna have a job. And I don't see it as a great hire. I don't see it as a bad hire. I just see it as hey, cool, you got an offensive coach. He's related to Michael Lombardi, a former NFL executive who was a general manager at one point. Cool, let's keep
Well,
it moving. Like I don't.
he did start out his career in San Francisco with with Hardball. So that's
Yes,
interesting to know.
I guess. Did you? I
Um,
don't know. Did you watch Grant show today?
no, but I was just reading Akash's tweet because I was trying to figure out, do you know when they're gonna be assigning like roles to these players? Because we don't even have an official role for him yet. So I was trying to figure that out. And while I was reading that, it just says Mick Lombardi started out his NFL career with San Francisco as Jim Harbaugh's assistant to head coach, then made several stops with the Jets and Patriots offensive staff before becoming the Raiders OC last year. Could be kind of interesting. I mean, it it sucks that all the offenses he's coming from have not been impressive. You know what I mean? Like Jets don't have an impressive offense. The Patriots didn't have an impressive offense, at least the last couple years. And then Raiders were carried by their defense and still did poorly.
Mm-hmm.
But now he rejoins Kyle Shanahan's offensive coaching staff. I am interested. Like I like what you're saying about his dad. This is kind of how I felt about Brandon Staley, where I was like, they Cal Shanahan and Brandon Staley share an agent. I wonder if it's just people doing, favor. Like
Favor.
it looks bad for him to be out of the league completely. The Rams needed a defensive coordinator. That's supposedly where Staley, had his big, most impressive season. They didn't want him back. Maybe he just wasn't going to get a job. And so his agent reached out and said, have a guy in the room, bounce ideas off of, but he won't tell anyone what to do. And it just makes him look good to be on the 49ers coaching staff. And maybe something similar going on with Mick Lombardi.
Yeah, I think it's definitely so. It's all about who you know and who owes you a favor in the industry of coaching, right? Like you look at Mick Lombardi. So the reason why his first so Grant was on a show on a show today. He mentioned how Mick Lombardi and Jim Harbaugh's son went to the same middle school or something like that or high school, and that's where they knew each other from. When Jim
Oh,
Harbaugh was with the Raiders for that 1 year or 2 years, he was with the Raiders as a player. Um, it was with Michael Lombardi as a senior executive there. So when or like that time where he was bouncing around or whatever, it's like he coached there or something like that because he was the Raiders quarterbacks coach. Actually, was coaching. Sorry, not playing. He was coaching from '02 to 2003 as their quarterback coach. Michael Lombardi was also there as a senior personnel executive. Their sons went to school together, and when they went to school together, obviously they knew each other. Uh, Mitch or Mick got a job with Jim and stuff like that. So it's like all about who you know. So it's like I know a
yeah,
lot of
yeah,
people are
yeah.
like, oh, I was super excited about we got. I guarantee you, not many people were calling for Mick Lombardi to be on the coaching staff. Like like I didn't see anyone
Like,
calling for
why
Mick
did the
Lombardi
Raiders
to be
let
on the
him
coaching
go
staff.
then, right? Like, if he was that important, isn't that? I mean, we don't know his position yet, but it seems like it's probably a lateral move or even a step down. If he was an offensive coordinator, he's not going to be the offensive coordinator, which means the Raiders had to approve letting him go, right?
No, so
Because
he got fired. He got fired when he was with Josh McDaniel. Him and Josh McDaniels got fired that same day with the general manager. So that's like their offense wasn't good. Like he was their offensive coordinator.
no,
So it's one of those ones where I know
that
a lot
was
of
like
people were
a
excited, but it's
laughable offense.
like I know I probably sound super negative with this hire, but it's like I probably sound like super duper negative. But to be honest, I'm looking at it like, hey, it's just another offensive coach being hired by Kyle Shanahan. I don't really see it as a super duper big hire. The 49ers coaching staff, Kyle constantly will hire coaching and he'll promote them. I don't see Mick being like the offensive coordinator. I see a potentially passing game coordinator, run game coordinator, or somewhere along the offensive. Not even actually no, not even run game coordinator, because Chris Forrester, the offensive line coach, is the run game coordinator. So the only thing they have available really is passing game coordinator, maybe assistant on the offensive coaching staff somewhere. But even then, like that's
No.
offensive passing game specialist was Clint Kubiak. Maybe that's what he
Do you
becomes,
think
the
that we'll figure this out
offensive
before
passing game
the?
specialist.
Do you think we'll figure this out before the coaches meetings, or do you think we'll have to wait for one of the media members to ask Kyle at the
I
end of the month?
I think that one of them may. It'll be something along the lines where one of them one of the beat reporters asks before, and like Matt Mayoko will like, hey, tweet it
Yeah,
out like, hey, I just found out that he's actually the passing game specialist or whatever the case may be. But the only thing that's more interesting to me is who his dad is, like Michael Lombardi. Like that's a well-known guy. You're gonna start. Are we gonna start seeing more leaks from the 49ers? That's where I'm
that's
concerned.
kinda interesting. I feel
Hey,
like there's been a lot of leaks recently anyways, to be honest. I feel like the 49ers had this, like, "We don't leak" reputation for a few years, and I don't believe that anymore. I think they leak pretty often.
I,
Really quickly, Justin, I don't know how to pronounce his last name, just signed a $98 million extension. Didn't notice till just now. Defensive lineman for the
defensive tackle.
Ravens? Defensive
Yeah.
tackle for the Ravens? Was he supposed to be on the market or
No, I think he was franchise tag. I could be. I think want to say he was franchise
okay.
tag. It's not.
I didn't
He
know if
was
that
always.
was
He
like
was.
a guy that people were thinking might come over or if that was someone was just letting us know.
Yeah, I
I
think he
didn't
was
know if
just
that
letting
was
us
like
know.
relevant information, but I'm happy for him. Way to go. That's a lot of millions of dollars. If he wants to send some over here, that'd be great. Um,
Just
do
1
you think the
million, and I'll be
49ers
happy.
are gonna go defensive line with their first pick and just drive everyone crazy?
It makes sense to do it, right? Like it truly does.
No,
If you
it
look at their,
doesn't.
it does. It
No, it
does. Look,
doesn't, Marco.
let me
No,
break
it
it down to
doesn't.
you. Let me break it down to you. So when you look at the Niners, right? How many defensive tackles do they have truly under contract that are good, or defensive linemen?
They're letting go of a shit ton of defensive tackles, but they should go get one in free agency, not the draft.
But an edge rusher is considered a defensive lineman. So like if they go
But they
edge,
have Chase Young, Cleveland Farrell, Javon Kinlaw, Kevin Givens, Randy Gregory, Sebastian Joseph Day are all free agents for them this year. So you're right. They need to
how many
fortify
do
that
they have
position.
under how many do they have under
Those
contract
are
right now?
all guys who are leaving
So
or
so
could
but
be
like
leaving if they bring
so
them back.
under contract, let me take a look at who's under contract. 49ers
Yeah.
contracts. I believe they have Nick Bosa.
Mhm.
They got Arik Armstead. They have
Literally might
Javon
eight
Hargrave.
or 6 to 10 games this year because
Uh,
that's what he's done the last 2 games.
Drake
Javon Kinlaw's
Jackson.
not on the thing. He's a free agent, right?
I meant Javon Hargrave. My bad. I meant
Okay,
Hargrave.
no worries.
Um, so that's
Drake
four.
Jackson
Drake
wasn't
Jackson.
even on the team this year.
They got Robert Beal, a rookie. They have Kalia Davis, a player who hasn't played. So they have 6 players under
6,
contract.
6. Cool.
And they have
I'm
Ty
feeling more and
McGill.
more confident the more you're talking.
They have Ty McGill, who's a reserve future.
I've never even heard that name before.
They also signed Raymond Johnson, who's the reserve future contract.
Wonderful.
They actually have a couple of reserve future contracts, so they might not go round one. They have Spencer Wade, who they signed last year as a rookie, undrafted free
Iggy?
agent. They have Sam. I don't know how to say his last name. I don't
Lakota?
want to butcher it. Okuwanyu.
Oh, okay.
So like they have players they signed as reserve future contracts, but it's like, are they going to play for you?
If you were the 49ers, can I run through some of the guys that I just mentioned for you? Just a quick yes or no, we don't have to get into them. Chase
Perfect.
Young, are you bringing him back?
What price?
Agree.
That'd be my biggest
Uh,
question. What price? If not,
do you think
but if I had to choose, I'd say no.
Me too. I would say no, but you're right, if you can get him for cheap like, when they traded for him, no one else wanted him, right? But
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, he showed promise in that last Super Bowl game, but all freaking year when he was supposed to be like, this was a make or break a year for him, he was, like, lacking motivation and dipping, and you're just like, that should not I mean, even Devo did a good job about, like, you can play hard for 1 year. Um, Cleveland Farrell, I think he could be interesting
Yes.
to bring back if he's, on a cheap deal, I could see that. Javon Kinlaw?
No. Too expensive.
Yeah, that's what I felt too, but I was arguing with Jose about this because I was saying I think that they could bring back, like, Cleveland Farrell and Randy Gregory, potentially for the price of, like, Javon Kinlaw. Like, if they both get, like, 2 and Kinlaw gets, like, 3 or 4. But Jose was like, "No, they're all gonna get the same." I was like, "I don't think so. I think someone will be willing to pay Javon Kinlaw a little bit more."
We don't talk about
Yeah.
Jose on this podcast, man.
Um,
He's not,
but
remember we said he's not invited to the barbecue. We already said that.
not invited to the barbecue. I got it. Are you keeping Kinlaw or too expensive, you said? I like
Yeah,
this. We're on
I
the
think he's
team.
gonna be a too expensive. I think he'd be a little bit pricey. I think he could potentially get a 1 year, 5 year deal. Potentially with how good he played this year. Someone might be
Yeah.
looking to catch a lightning in a
The
bottle.
only thing the only thing and I'm, like, team don't bring him back, but the only thing that is upsetting is 49ers do usually do good with those guys who, struggled their rookie contract, and then the 49ers bring him in for, like, 1 year, get him under Chris Kocurek, and then usually they like, thrive that year. So it's like, if Kinlaw was on a different team, I feel like we might be like, "Oh, like, give him 1 year, like, give him a chance,"
Mhm.
type of thing, so it kinda sucks that, he's in that situation where players do tend to do well for the 49ers, but just we've seen him miss so much time that it's like, okay, depending on the price, is it really worth that chance? Because what if something happens and he just doesn't play for you? Like, you have to realize that's an opportunity. That is a possibility.
I
Once
mean, he
again,
also
not predicting injury, just like trying to be realistic.
the only reason why I see them bringing him back, if they're like at the price that he's gonna try to get, is Arik Armstead has been often injured, sadly,
Yeah.
and
And
them
maybe
needing to have a
Kinlaw
D
might
tackle
take
like
a
that.
little, potentially Kinlaw, like if it was like just a, $500,000 difference or something, I could see Kinlaw taking a little less to stay with Eric, you don't think?
Nah, you don't. California taxes and plus a player with they've already said that it's arthritis in his knee or something like that. He ain't
Yeah.
taking no money. He ain't taking no less money. Think about
Okay,
it, if you
okay, okay.
let's say he has three. Let's say he has 2 more years on his in the NFL because of his health, and
He
he's
wants the
gonna look
most
back.
possible.
He's gonna look back on that and say, you know what, I lost out on $1 million because I wanted to play with the Niners, and he's gonna be like, I know we paid him well off his rookie contract, but these
Yeah,
players care about their money.
okay. And then I had Kevin Givens, Randy Gregory, Sebastian Joseph Day. Any of those guys you wanna bring back?
Givens, no. Randy Gregory,
He had that first
no.
sack in the
Like
Super Bowl.
he did. Randy Gregory's one of those ones where I wouldn't mind if it's like a 1 year, like
Yeah, if he could come back for, like,
cheap.
nothing.
Yeah,
Yeah,
like you're pretty much vet minimum. Then yes. Um, you said Joseph Day. No, it doesn't fit.
yeah.
He doesn't fit the system.
Um,
But
do you
I
think
would
that they're gonna
say
look Yeah, go ahead.
it depends on Joseph Day and how his relationship is with Staley because I heard they didn't like each other. So that's probably like an automatic no for him anyways.
Oh, yeah, you're right, when he came over, he kinda, like, talked a little shit, huh?
Yeah. So that's
Remember
probably an
that?
automatic no.
why the fuck are the 49ers bringing in this guy? Like, Nick Bosa doesn't like him. I mean, we don't know that for sure, but like Nick Bosa's brother doesn't like him. And if my sister doesn't like someone, I don't like them.
Good point. That's a great point.
Uh, my best friend, I was staying at her house in New York. I'll be going back there, but I grew up with her and her family. And she has an older sister, Katie, and Katie's first boyfriend ever, like in like high school or whatever, had like a giant crush on Zoe Deschanel from New Girl. And so, like, Katie just, like, hated Zoe Deschanel, and, like, out of solidarity to Katie, we were all like, "Yeah, she's not even that good of an actress," like, just, like, hating on her for no reason. And I feel like that's how Nick Bosa probably is with Brandon Staley, like, he's just gonna be side-eyeing him off
The
the
whole
bat.
time. Just because this is a comment. This is a comment that Joseph Day had said when he had joined the Niners. They had asked like if they could give a comment on the Chargers, his time with the Chargers. He's like, I think I'll keep my comments to myself. I'm lucky to be here. It's talking about the Niners. It's a new opportunity. I'm just thankful to be part of this organization. I'm focused on that right now. I'm just thankful. I'm in a great situation with a great team and a lot of great players. So he wanted to go in on him, but he said, you know what? I'm taking the high
Hold back a
road
little.
and I'm not going to say one word.
I didn't remember the exact wording, so I'm glad you read it, but I remember that interview and being like I felt like especially with the tone of his voice, you could tell he was, like,
Oh,
spicy
yeah.
about it. Um, I wanna ask you about a silly rumor, but to be fair, Matt Barrows put it out, and Matt Barrows, people find him respectable. I'm
Really
not
good
saying I
guy.
don't, I also do that. Writes for The Athletic, is in the know, talks to Kyle Shanahan, talks to John Lynch, talks to insiders involved, and there were some rumors about Mac Jones and being released from the Patriots and who would be interested in Mac Jones. There were some like of those like 49er 24/7 those type of websites that were like, "Ooh, what about Mac Jones?" Wasn't going to take any of that seriously. And then Matt Barrows makes a little poll and says, "Who should the 49ers bring for a backup quarterback, Zach Wilson or Mac Jones?" Quote tweets his own little poll and says that would think that the 49ers would be more interested in bringing in Mac Jones. So I feel like I know it's kind of drama-y, but I feel like it's worth the discussion. Do you think the 49ers are going to kick the tires on bringing in McCorkle?
Let's do it. I'm all for it. Also, it was funny because I believe it was on Grant's show when we were talking about Mac Jones versus Zach Wilson conversation, and I had said I'd bring both of them in. I don't mind doing it, but if I was to look at who Kyle would prefer, bring in whoever you want, but then that's going to tell us, for example, if he does bring in Mac Jones, everyone's better be aware that the moment he does that, the questions are going to be, did you prefer Mac Jones over Trey Lance in that draft class? Did the 49ers fan base alter your decision? And did you pivot, or did the ownership make you pivot to go to Trey Lance? Because you remember when no one wanted Mac Jones in 49ers fan base, and they were lighting it up a storm on social media, myself included. I ain't gonna lie. And then next thing you know, they trade for him. Very similar attributes to Brock Purdy. Its IQ was super high. That's coming out like the stuff that he was being talked about. Comes in, he plays good in preseason, plays good in training camp. Conversation starts, rumors start running, right? Okay, what can you get for one of those quarterbacks? Can you get something for Brock Purdy? Can you get something for Mac Jones eventually? If they do it, I'd be shocked. I don't see them doing it, but they need a backup quarterback, right? So if you think Mac Jones is a backup quarterback and you think you can save quarterbacks' careers, they did it with Sam Darnold. They may try to do it with Mac Jones,
Did they do
but
it with Sam Darnold?
yeah, he's
Everyone's
getting
saying this. Everyone's saying Sam Darnold is now worth more. What did he
Sam
show
Darnold's going to
except
be
for
a starter this
he
year.
lost to the Rams backups. What did
But it's also, you got to remember, he was playing with backups. Like
Okay.
that's not his. That's not.
He was
That's
very Sam Darnold. Threw
I
like 2 deep balls, threw a ball to the other team, dropped a ball.
I thought
Very
Sam
Sam
Darnold played
Darnold.
pretty well against the Ravens for a little minute till he threw the
I
interception. But
you think Mac Jones and Brock Purdy have similar skill sets,
they
Marco?
do. They do. and people are gonna be like, "No, they don't." Yes, they do.
Oh, like tomato, tomato, tomato.
Like if we like people forget like Mac Jones is low key done dirty in New England, right? Like rookie year has a solid rookie year, puts up 3,800 yards, 22
He's not
touchdowns, 13
crazy though.
interceptions, and then kids, you have a second year when you have a good season and then you lose your offensive coordinator and you hire a special teams coach and a defensive coordinator to be the offensive coordinator. It's like, what are you doing? Like, you put the guy back 6 years, then he has a bad year too, where he throws for barely 3,000 yards and just looks bad. Like, doesn't look himself.
No,
Last year he
definitely
didn't look
looked off.
himself at all. Like he
And
wasn't
for sure
good.
had like no confidence put behind him, right? Like he was constantly in multiple games was taken out for Bailey Zappi, and Zappi was also shitting the bed.
I would also
Um,
hate to have to replace Tom Brady. Like that's a hard thing to do, you know? Like it's hey, you're the
I just
first
don't
high
know.
pick since Tom.
Kyle Shanahan is such like a mindset type guy. I feel like he would just not jive well with Mac Jones, who was like kind of talking back to the coaches and stuff. You know what
That's
I
what
mean?
Kyle
Like he doesn't
needs.
really like guys like that.
That's what he
He
needs.
might need it, but he doesn't like it.
Kyle needs someone. Kyle needs, for example, I was so hoping Tom Brady would have signed like with the Niners or the Niners would have ended up signing him during that time because I could already have seen Kyle calling in a play for Tom Brady, him looking up at Tom Brady and telling, or like looking at Kyle and saying, "Shut up." Like, just I got this, kind of mentality. Hey, I got this. Don't worry about it. So like that's why I didn't see him fitting with Aaron Rodgers because Rodgers is more of a I'm gonna talk back to you versus Brady was like, you know what? Yeah, I'll let you yes, do what you gotta do, but I'm gonna make a change at the line of scrimmage. But I think Kyle, if he was to choose one of them, there was rumors that Kyle preferred Zach Wilson in that draft, and
Yeah, he would have
that the
taken him
Jets
first, right?
yeah, and like there's just the Jets were picking before him, and that's why the Jets took him because they knew Kyle really liked him, and they were trying to go what fits Kyle's
That
offense or what fits that
2021
system.
or that 2020 COVID year really fucked everyone up, which is why I don't
Yeah,
understand why the 49ers brought in Brandon Staley because his only good year was 2020, which clearly the Rams don't even have faith in because they could have brought him back and decided not to. But we won't get into. We're past the Brandon Staley topic. I just
you
have
seem
to throw a
pretty
little
mad that
jam.
the Niners hired him. Are
He
you mad that they
honestly
hired
probably
him?
won't have that much of an effect. Like if he is in that Anthony Lynn role, did we even really hear from Anthony Lynn? Did he do anything? I know he's
What if
like
the
more of a
Niners
defensive guy, but
Ashley, you're gonna love when the Niners defense is struggling. They fired Nick Sorensen because they got Brandon Staley on the defensive staff, and now Brandon Staley's calling defensive plays because
that's gonna be me. Nick
you put
Bosa's
the
gonna be
positive
right.
energy for him, and now you're gonna be super happy that Brandon Staley's calling plays for the Niners defense. And I'm gonna remember this conversation.
So, if you had
That's
to
funny.
choose between the 49ers using one of their later round draft picks on a QB and maybe letting some was it Brian Gracie who found Brock Purdy? Letting
Yes,
him
it
do
was.
his letting him do some maybe magic in the later rounds or trading. What do you think it would take to get Mac Jones right now? I mean, are they thinking about like cutting him?
I don't think they'll cut him, but I think they'll be able to trade a little bit for him. Like you got to get something out of him.
Yeah.
But if you're looking at a quarterback that showed something or has potential. I thought Carter Bradley out of South Alabama at the Senior Bowl looked pretty solid for a player that was from a smaller school. He competed. It looked solid. And then if they want to go like weaker, like lesser, I mean, a little more known of a name, but not as good of a quarterback, Kid on Slovis. So it all just depends on what they want to do. But just bring back Brandon Allen, have him be your quarterback too, and call it a day. Like, let's not sit here and add extra
Brandon Allen,
quarterbacks.
quarterback too?
Yeah, what do you backup quarterback? So a good backup quarterback truly is to make sure he's watching a bunch of film and making sure your quarterback understands what's going on. Like that's what the backup quarterback. So if you ever have to, any team ever plays their
Backup
backup
quarterbacks
quarterback,
have to play nowadays.
they're never. If a backup quarterback ever plays, they're never winning a Super
Jake
Bowl.
Browning. Jake
Did they
Browning.
did they make the playoffs?
They weren't doing too hot before, though. Didn't they have
But
to,
did
like,
they?
win, like, every game or some
Mm,
shit?
But it's that's what I'm saying. Like if you have to go to your second quarterback, you're not. You know normally you're not making the playoffs. And if you do make the playoffs,
Maybe
for
they would've made the
example,
playoffs if they would've went to him sooner. Joe Burrow just has, like, a hard head and was like, "I'm gonna play with, like, a broken hand."
so for like that, like
Prayers up to
if
him, by the way. I, like, saw something on Twitter that his wrist thing might be a
yeah,
bigger
that
deal
injury
than
is a big. It's
people.
I saw that,
Yeah. It
but like
sucks.
thinking about it, if you got to go to QB2, you're not winning many games anywhere you go. Like that's
49ers
any.
won with their 3rd string, baby!
But even then, like that's just because the Niners team was stacked.
The
Like let's be
49ers
real.
bring back I know you said Jose isn't invited to the cookout, but yesterday on on my show with Jose, he was saying, this is a joke, by the way, he didn't really say this, but
He's
a
probably
commenter brought it
serious.
up, that they should bring in Jimmy Garoppolo.
I wouldn't be surprised because Jose's a
Marco's
Raiders
like, "I
fan, so he
quit. I
would.
actually am
He
not gonna podcast anymore." Marco just his screen goes black.
it'd be interesting if they did like
Jimmy
because
G or
Kyle and him
Mac
hate
Jones?
each
Who are you
other.
bringing back? I agree, they've
Mac
talked so much
Jones,
shit about
Mac
each other.
Jones, Mac Jones, 100%. Like the Niners team doesn't even like Jimmy Garoppolo. Like I was really hoping. I don't know if you saw the Brandon Ayuk. Brandon Ayuk
Randall would
went
be
on.
so
A,
excited.
he went on a live stream and there that someone asked him,
I saw
Trey
this. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Trey Lance or Jimmy Garoppolo, and he just kind of
Isn't it
stayed
so
quiet.
funny that, like, 2 years ago, that would have been, like, the headline for every podcast? I
Every
also said
podcast,
no one's
every
talked about that.
podcast.
I also saw that.
But he had said he was like laughing, like he kind of just like said they're quiet, and then he laughed. He's like, "That's an
No.
easy answer." He's like Trey Lance. I was really hoping, 100%. I was watching the live stream. I was hoping someone said after that question, Trey Lance or Brock Purdy to see his response because I wasn't. I knew what the response would have been. He's gonna take his quarterback that he has now, but I wanted to see his reaction. How does he
Yeah, like,
react to
just
that
his
kind of
face.
question? You're like, because if you know, like your reaction kind of tells him more than what you're
Yeah, it's
gonna
kinda like,
say.
that's such an old like, come on, update it.
Yeah,
Update it. No one
Trey
cares
Lance,
about Trey
do
Lance
Trey
and
Lance
Jimmy G
versus
anymore.
Purdy,
Let's ask
do
about Brock Purdy.
because he stayed quiet for like the Jimmy, like he didn't want to answer. He didn't want to do that to Jimmy G. Like he just not who
He was
Ayuk
cracking
is.
up a little, though.
Was quiet and then he started hella laughing, and that because his friends were laughing so hard, like
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
he
Like,
started
they
laughing.
obviously knew.
Yeah, it's like they knew, but he was always a big Trey Lance guy. Like he was
I think he was
always
just
Trey
like,
Lance.
"Man,
So
I'm just trying to pay strippers and"
it's
no, sorry, that's Trey. I'm just
catching
trying to
strays
date
on a.
porns. Yeah, yeah. He's like, "I'm not even on the team anymore. What the
He's
heck?"
probably the guy who he's probably Jimmy Garoppolo is probably the guy who took the $900 escort to the Golden State Warriors game a few nights ago. The $900 per
What
hour, by
happened?
the way. I was like, Jimmy's probably the guy who took the $900 per hour
Is
escort
there
to the Warriors
is
game.
that like a report? Did that happen?
No, hey, like she was on TV like after Steph hit a big three, and he celebrated. Like they took a picture, and she ended up was like, yeah, like someone asked her a question or interviewed her, like
He's
or showed it
offered
to.
up that information on live TV? God.
Well, no, not on live TV. It wasn't live TV. Like
Yeah, yeah.
reporters like hit her, like message her or whatever, and she was like, yeah, um. I get paid $900 per hour as an escort, and I was like, "That probably was Jimmy G back in the Bay Area. $900 per hour is what he likes."
Ah, poor Jimmy. Never gonna live that one down. It's just because like, no one ever saw him with anyone else, so that's just exactly where their minds go to.
Yeah,
And then
it's
he went to Vegas,
funny.
and then he got
Jimmy's
kicked out of Vegas. Do you think he's gonna be a start or not even a starting quarterback, but like a quarterback in the league signed? Because I know he's suspended for a couple games.
Jimmy Garoppolo to the Denver Broncos. I'm being serious. Like, Jimmy Garoppolo's he's gonna go on a super cheap contract to the Denver Broncos. He's familiar with Sean Payton. Sean Payton could give him an offense that he
Has
could
Sean
work
Payton
with.
ever said, like, good things about him? I bet he has, right?
I'm pretty sure they went to the same college.
Oh, I didn't know that connection. We were just talking about that with, Mick Lombardi. I keep calling him Mike, Jesus. Mick Lombardi.
I mean,
Hey, look
he gave Jimmy Garoppolo Super Bowl advice, so and then he was making predictions about him in 2022 on where he should go and stuff like that.
My goodness, my goodness. Well, that's the Raiders' problem, not the 49ers' problem. Leave it in the comments below if you think Mac Jones, QB2, QB controversy coming up. Yes or no? Who should come? Zach Wilson, Mac Jones. I say just sign Zach Wilson, wait till next year, then sign Robert Saleh as the defensive coordinator. Have the Jets just run it back on the Niners, baby.
I
That
say
was a
they
joke.
extend. I
That was
say
just
they extend Colton McKivitz one more time to a 4-year deal.
Stop. Stop.
I mean, if we're gonna run it back for the next 4 years with Colton McKivitz.
Everyone, everyone, please make sure to like and subscribe to my YouTube channel at Ashley Ariana. And make sure to like and subscribe to Marco, Clutch Sheen Sports. Free agencies coming up, I think on Monday, right? So we'll
Yeah,
have
I
a
believe
lot to
so.
talk about by next week. Maybe we'll have some answers, especially with those defensive linemen that we were talking about. And I know Marco's going to have tons of draft stuff coming up. I think it's under 50 days away for that too. So lots of stuff every single week coming up.
We just cracked 500 on Clutch Gene Sports, so shout out to all the Clutch Gene
Whoop,
Sports
whoop. Everyone make sure to
subscribers,
go like
listeners,
and subscribe.
followers. So make sure you guys hit
Hell
that
yeah.
button. Ashley Ariana's channel as well. Thank you guys for tuning in.
Thank you guys. Have a really great weekend. Stay hydrated with this warm weather. Thank God the sun